Nobody expected the WNBA to melt down like this. Nobody thought Team USA, the most protected, polished, carefully curated roster in women's basketball, would explode from the inside. And absolutely nobody thought Aja Wilson, the face of the league, the so-called untouchable superstar, would be the first one kicked out. But it happened. And the reason? Caitlin Clark, not her fans, not the media hype, not the ratings. Caitlin herself. Because according to multiple insiders and a leaked message that should never have seen the light of day, Caitlin Clark exposed a truth so insane, so humiliating, so destructive to the WNBA's old guard, that Team USA had no choice but to make an example out of someone. And Aja Wilson was the one who paid the price. The footage, the documents, the private locker room conversation that leaked at 3 a.m., every single piece points to one thing. There was a plan to keep Caitlin Clark silent, and that plan failed. Failed so badly that it triggered a full internal investigation, emergency meetings, players crying, coaches panicking, executives threatening resignations, and a meltdown so bad that the Olympic Committee stepped in personally. And the moment Caitlin Clark told the truth about how she was being treated, the truth about who targeted her, the truth about why certain decisions were being made behind closed doors, Team USA snapped. And Aja Wilson, the one who publicly acted like everything was normal, the one who kept throwing shade without saying names, the one who claimed the Clark hype was nothing special, just found herself removed, replaced, erased, and thrown under the bus by the same people she thought were protecting her. Fans are stunned. The league is spiraling. And the old WNBA guard? They are scrambling to hide their tracks. Because Caitlin Clark didn't just expose drama, she exposed the truth. The truth that could end careers, end reputations, and end the power structure that ruled the WNBA for years. And the craziest part? This is only the beginning. Before the world saw headlines screaming that Aja Wilson was removed from Team USA, before Caitlin Clark's name turned the league upside down, before fans started choosing sides like it was a national war, there was a story quietly simmering beneath the surface. A story the WNBA hoped would never escape the building. Because this drama didn't start with a roster decision. It didn't start with Twitter subtweets. It didn't even start with Caitlin Clark entering the league. No. This started years ago, long before Caitlin ever stepped foot on a WNBA court, when Team USA already had a culture built on something the public never saw. Favoritism, gatekeeping, hierarchy, unspoken rules, and a silent battle between the old guard and anyone who threatened their power. For years, Team USA, the most elite group in women's basketball, functioned like a private club. You didn't get in because you were the best. You got in because certain players approved of you, because certain voices vouched for you, because certain stars allowed you in their circle. And no one had a louder voice inside that circle than Aja Wilson. She wasn't just a star. She was the golden child, the protected one, the face of marketing, the one the league pushed in front of every camera, the one whose opinions carried weight in Team USA decisions. If Aja wanted you there, you had a chance. If she didn't, good luck. And this system worked perfectly, until Caitlin Clark arrived. A rookie who outsold every veteran. A rookie who outrated the entire league. A rookie who drew crowds bigger than the WNBA had ever seen. I thought a rookie who had more influence on the sport in 6 months than some players had in 12 years. Fans didn't just love her. They followed her. They traveled with her. They brought money, media attention, sponsors, and an entirely new demographic. For the first time ever, the WNBA wasn't being pulled by a committee. It was being pulled by one player. And the league's old guard hated it. And the whispers began almost immediately. She hasn't earned anything. She didn't grind like we did. She's a media creation. She's stealing the spotlight. She's not even that good. Players didn't say these things publicly. They didn't have to. It was written all over their reactions. When Caitlin broke viewership records, silence. When she dropped 30, eye rolls. When she made the All-Star list, shade. When fans chanted her name, annoyance. Aja, who had long been the face of the WNBA, suddenly found herself being outshined. Not slowly, not gradually, instantly. And that's where the tension began. Because Aja wasn't just losing attention. She was losing power. Power she held for years. Power that shaped decisions. Power that built her image. Then came the Olympic talks. For months, its executives insisted that Team USA selections were based on performance. But everybody behind the scenes knew different. Team USA was built to protect the old guard, to guarantee their spotlight, to keep the hierarchy intact. And Caitlin Clark, the most watched, most talked about, most influential player entering the league, wasn't just a threat. She was a disruption. At training camps, the energy was off. Veterans whispered in corners. Staff avoided answering questions directly. And our younger players stayed quiet, afraid to take sides. Multiple insiders said the same thing. Caitlin didn't feel welcome, and journalists noticed too. Reporters whispered about awkward interactions. Clips of players ignoring her went viral. Moments where older stars dismissed her plays trended for hours. The message was loud and clear. You're not one of us. You're not supposed to be here. And we will decide when you earn acceptance. But Caitlin Clark wasn't scared. She wasn't shy. She wasn't going to bow her head. She came to compete. She came to win. She came to change the game. And deep down, Aja Wilson knew it. Because Caitlin wasn't just a great shooter. She was a phenomenon. And that kind of phenomenon forces a system to do one thing: break. But nobody expected it to break this violently. The beginning of the end started in a private team meeting, one that wasn't supposed to leak. So players were asked about locker room cohesion, about media treatment, about internal respect. Most players gave generic answers, but Caitlin didn't. According to a leaked summary, she finally reached her breaking point and said something that stunned the room. "I'm not here to be hazed. I'm not here to play politics. I'm here to represent the United States. And if anyone has a problem with that, say it to my face." Boom. Silence. You could hear careers shaking. Veterans looked uncomfortable. Staff looked terrified. Younger players looked relieved but scared to show it. And Aja Wilson? Her expression said everything. She wasn't expecting Caitlin to talk back. Because nobody ever talked back. Nobody ever challenged the hierarchy. Nobody ever challenged her. That moment sparked the internal split. Old guard versus new era. Gatekeepers versus game changers. Tradition versus evolution. And once that line was drawn, tension became unavoidable. Now then came the truth. The truth Caitlin exposed. The truth that Aja never expected to go public. The truth that forced Team USA, for the first time in years, to step out of the shadows and take drastic action. Something very wrong was happening behind closed doors. Something the public wasn't supposed to know. Something that changed everything about how the roster was built. Critics had suspected it. Fans had hinted at it. Analysts had whispered about it. But Caitlin Clark? Well, she confirmed it. And within 48 hours of her speaking up, decisions were made at lightning speed. Secret calls, emergency meetings, panicked executives trying to contain a PR nightmare. Then suddenly, Aja Wilson was out. Kicked off, removed. Unavailable. Restructured. Team adjustments. The official statement was vague, confusing, corporate. But insiders knew exactly what happened. Because the truth Caitlin revealed wasn't just embarrassing. It was damning. And the fallout had only just begun. The meltdown didn't begin when Aja Wilson got kicked out. It didn't begin when Caitlin Clark broke her silence. It began the moment a private conversation, something never meant to leave that room, leaked to the wrong person. A recording. A real recording. One that captured the exact moment the team exposed the ugly truth. Certain players, including Aja Wilson, were actively trying to keep Caitlin Clark out of Team USA. Not because she wasn't good enough, not because she hadn't earned her spot, not because she was a rookie, but because they were terrified of what she represented. The new era, the new audience, the new money, the new spotlight, the new standard. The kind of standard that threatens careers. And guess who was speaking the loudest in that secretly recorded moment? Aja Wilson. Not publicly, never publicly. But behind closed doors, she didn't hold back. But the recording allegedly captured her saying, "She brings chaos. She brings fans that don't respect us. She brings attention we didn't ask for. Team USA doesn't need that energy." Another line leaked. "This isn't her league yet." Boom. The internet would have combusted if that clip had dropped raw. But it didn't. Not yet. Only a few people heard it. Only a few people knew. And worst of all, one of them sent it to Caitlin. But how? Because someone in that room, one of the younger players, or one of the new faces, secretly respected Caitlin. They admired her. They felt the bullying. They felt the tension. And they were done watching the old guard suffocate the league. So they took a risk. They recorded the conversation, saved it, sent it to Caitlin Clark anonymously. One message attached: "You deserve to know." Caitlin didn't react immediately. She didn't run to the media. She didn't go to Twitter. She didn't cry. Instead, she did something far more dangerous. She confronted the coaches. According to insiders, she walked straight into the team meeting and said, "I know what was said about me. I know who said it. And I need to know why." The room went silent. Veterans stopped breathing. Coaches looked shocked. Not because they didn't know what Aja said, but because they didn't know Caitlin had the proof. Aja caught off guard. He tried to play it cool. "I don't know what you're talking about." But Caitlin interrupted her. For the first time ever, the most marketed, most controlled, most media-friendly rookie in sports history stopped playing nice. And she dropped the bomb. "I heard the recording." Every head turned toward Aja. Her face changed. Her posture changed. Her eyes locked onto Caitlin with shock, anger, embarrassment, all mixing at once. Because Aja didn't just get exposed. She got exposed by Caitlin, on in front of everyone. People who were there described the scene as uncomfortable, painful, career-shaking, something we never thought we would witness. One coach allegedly asked, "What exactly did you hear?" Caitlin gave them a look so cold, so calm, so confident. Everything. That was the moment the hierarchy shattered. Aja snapped, "You don't get to come in here and act like this is your team." Caitlin fired back, "I didn't come here to take your spot. Yet I came here so Team USA could actually win." The room exhaled. Gasps. A few players put their hands over their mouths, because that line was deeper than shade. It was a direct attack on Aja's leadership. For years, she was the face of the WNBA. For years, she was the spokesperson, the PR darling, the one who said all the right things. But Caitlin Clark wasn't interested in right things. She was interested in truth. And here's the twist nobody saw coming. Caitlin wasn't the only one who received the recording. The anonymous whistleblower sent it to someone else too. Team USA executives. And when the executives heard Aja Wilson aggressively pushing to exclude Caitlin Clark from the roster, not based on skill, not based on performance, but based on personal dislike and jealousy, they panicked. Because this wasn't just drama. It was discrimination, politics, gatekeeping, toxic leadership. And worst of all, it was something the Olympic Committee could be sued over. This is where everything flipped. In a matter of hours, emergency meetings were held, lawyers were called, PR teams drafted statements, WNBA officials tried to bury the problem. Team USA tried to avoid a federal-level scandal. Caitlin Clark's name was mentioned over 30 times in one emergency call. The executives were terrified of two things. One, Caitlin going public. Two, the public turning on Team USA during an Olympic year. But the decision they made next? Nobody expected it. They removed Aja Wilson. Not quietly, not temporarily, not symbolically. They removed her. And to protect the program from looking corrupt or biased, they needed a public explanation. So they created the most vague statement possible. Aja Wilson will not be participating in this cycle of Team USA competition due to internal restructuring. Fans were confused. Analysts were confused. Even some players were confused. Because on the surface, it made no sense. Why would you remove the league's two-time MVP? Team USA star? The face of the WNBA? Unless she did something that could destroy the entire organization if exposed. But the old guard wasn't done. Aja's close teammates were furious. Some cried. Some demanded answers. Some threatened to pull out of Team USA themselves. But coaches already knew. This wasn't personal anymore. And this was damage control. Meanwhile, Caitlin? She went completely silent. No statement. No subtweets, no reaction. And that terrified everyone even more. Because a silent superstar is a dangerous superstar. The first major twist came the moment insiders confirmed. It wasn't Caitlin who leaked the drama. It was someone protecting her. And now, the entire WNBA is divided into two camps. The old guard, furious, confused, humiliated. Yet the new era, quietly celebrating that the gatekeeping finally crumbled. But the real twist? The recording hasn't leaked publicly. Not yet. Which means one thing. Caitlin Clark, intentionally or not, is now holding the most powerful weapon in women's basketball history. A recording that could end careers, end reputations, end the WNBA hierarchy. And deep down, everyone knows. If it ever leaks, Aja Wilson won't be the only one kicked out. But when the news finally broke, when ESPN quietly pushed the update at 6:12 a.m., hoping nobody would notice, the shockwave didn't just hit the WNBA, it tore through the entire sports world. Aja Wilson removed from Team USA. Roster restructuring. Internal issues. Fans couldn't believe it. Players couldn't process it. Analysts didn't know what angle to take. This wasn't benching. This wasn't rotation. This wasn't load management. This was the face of the WNBA being erased just months before the Olympics. And the question everybody asked first was, did Caitlin Clark do this? But the answer is far more complicated. Because what happened in the hours after Aja's removal revealed a hidden war. A war inside the WNBA, Team USA, and even their own locker rooms. Let's start from the top. The moment Aja got the call, insiders say she didn't cry, she didn't yell, she didn't panic. She snapped. According to someone who was in the building that morning, Aja threw her phone across the room. She stormed out of the training facility, ignored staff, ignored players, ignored everyone. When she finally spoke, her voice was shaking with rage. This is because of her. She didn't say Caitlin's name, but everyone knew exactly who she meant. While Aja was melting down. Meanwhile, the WNBA executive offices were in complete crisis mode. Phones ringing non-stop, or lawyers pacing in hallways, emails flagged urgent, sponsors demanding answers, and the biggest fear hanging in the room, if the recording leaks, we lose everything. Because the recording didn't just expose Aja, it exposed the system, the favoritism, the internal bias, the way Team USA selections were influenced by player politics, the gatekeeping that kept rising stars out. If the public heard Aja Wilson, the league's golden child, pushing to exclude Caitlin Clark for personal reasons, the WNBA wouldn't survive the backlash. Sponsors would pull out, networks would renegotiate, public trust would crash. The league's unity branding would collapse overnight. So executives didn't just want the recording hidden, they wanted it destroyed. But the nightmare was just beginning. Because once players found out why Aja was removed, Team USA fell apart internally. Half the players were furious at Aja. She crossed the line, she kept CC out, she abused her influence. But the other half? They blamed Caitlin. Some even confronted her behind closed doors. You didn't have to expose her like that. You're breaking this team apart. You're causing chaos. Caitlin didn't budge. She stood there, calm, cold, unshaken, and replied, "I didn't record it." And that one sentence made every player's stomach drop. Because if Caitlin didn't record it, and she didn't leak it, then someone in that room was working against Aja, against the vets, against the old guard. Someone was protecting Caitlin. Someone was tired of the gatekeeping. Someone wanted the new era to take over. And the locker room turned into a battlefield overnight. Veterans crying behind closed doors. Young players whispering in corners. Rookies terrified to pick sides. Assistants pretending not to hear arguments. Or staff panicking because the tension was too thick to ignore. And then, 50 minutes after the internal meltdown began, the first shocking leak hit Twitter. A sports insider, an account with a reputation for getting scoops right, posted, "There's a recording of Aja Wilson pushing to keep Caitlin Clark out of Team USA. Decision was made after investigation. The WNBA tried to get it taken down. They failed. The tweet hit 10,000 likes in minutes. Then 100,000. Then 1,000,000 views. But suddenly the world knew. Aja wasn't removed randomly. Aja wasn't injured. Aja wasn't load managed. She was removed because she tried to sabotage Caitlin Clark's Olympic chances. And the internet went wild. Comments exploded. "This league is jealous of Caitlin." They finally got exposed. Aja been salty since day one. CC is changing everything. This is the start of a WNBA civil war. Within hours, and Aja's own fans were divided. She didn't deserve this. But why did she hate on a rookie? Caitlin didn't do anything wrong. Why was the locker room so threatened by her? Journalists entered the ring. Some defended Aja, some defended Caitlin. But everybody agreed. Something major happened behind the scenes. Then, as if things weren't insane enough, ESPN leaked a bombshell quote from an anonymous Team USA staff member. Caitlin Clark told the truth, and then it forced us to take action. Boom. The internet flipped upside down. If Caitlin told the truth, what truth was it? Nobody knew. Until about 11:47 p.m. that night. A burner account, same one that leaked WNBA scandals before, dropped a line that sent chills through the whole basketball world. Aja wasn't kicked off for what she said about Caitlin. She was kicked off for what Caitlin exposed about the team. Wait. What? This wasn't just about locker room jealousy anymore. Caitlin exposed something bigger. Something related to Team USA operations. Something so serious that executives couldn't bury it. The tweet continued. Aja was part of something that was supposed to stay hidden. Caitlin found out. And once she spoke, they had to remove someone. Fans lost their minds. What was hidden? What did Caitlin see? What was Aja involved in? Why was the team scared? Then another leak dropped. There's proof Aja influenced roster decisions behind closed doors. And that's when the real panic began. Because if Aja had power to include or exclude players, if she influenced Olympic selections, if she used her status to shape Team USA, that is a scandal so big it could destroy careers. But the biggest twist? We're not even at the end. At 2:19 a.m., someone dropped the final piece. The recording isn't the worst part. There's a second piece of evidence, and that's what Caitlyn exposed. What second evidence? Which document? Which file? Which message? Rumors exploded. A secret text thread? A group chat mocking Caitlyn? A conversation about excluding her? A strategy to protect the old stars? We don't know. But one thing is certain. Caitlyn Clark exposed something so big, so dangerous, so impossible to spin that Team USA had to sacrifice someone. And Aja Wilson was the casualty. Not for the beef, not for jealousy, not for the recording, but for the truth Caitlyn brought into the light. A truth that still hasn't leaked. A truth the league is terrified of. A truth the old guard hopes never surfaces. A truth that could flip the entire structure of women's basketball. Austin, the final cliffhanger of this section, the burner account returned and posted, "The next leak isn't about Aya. It's about the coach, and Caitlyn has receipts." Bro, what? The internet went into meltdown again. Caitlyn versus Aya was already massive. But Caitlyn versus the coaches? That's a full-on revolution. This story is far from over. The moment the Aja Wilson removal story hit mainstream media, the internet didn't just react. It erupted. This wasn't normal sports drama. This wasn't WNBA beef. This wasn't locker room tension. This was a national scandal, and people treated it like one. Within minutes, Twitter turned into a war zone. TikTok turned into an investigation hub. Instagram turned into a rumor mill. Reddit turned into a detective agency. Hashtags started trending worldwide. Hashtag justice for Aja. Hashtag Caitlyn exposed. The truth. Hashtag Team USA leaks. Hashtag WNB a chaos. Hashtag old guard versus new era. Hashtag replace the system. Every single one was filled with rage, confusion, fan theories, and full-blown character attacks. But nobody expected the same sports analysts who spent months criticizing Caitlyn to suddenly flip. Shannon Sharpe said, "If Caitlyn Clark exposed corruption, she saved Team USA." Stephen A. Smith went off, "This ain't jealousy. This is accountability." Skip Bayless called it, "This will be the moment the WNBA changed forever." Even Pat McAfee, who rarely comments on WNBA drama, said, "Caitlyn Clark got people fired. She's bigger than the whole league." BRO. Much, this wasn't commentary. This was a cultural shift. And then, the fan-base civil war began. Because suddenly, everybody had to pick a side. They argued, Aja carried this league for years. Caitlyn is only famous because she's white. Rookies don't get to overpower vets. This is jealousy from fans, not players. They defended Aja like their life depended on it. They claimed Caitlyn was privileged, protected, and overhyped. But then came side two. They came armed with numbers, the receipts, and facts. Caitlyn saved the WNBA financially. She brought in fans who never watched before. The old guard is insecure. They bullied her from day one. This is what happens when power gets challenged. These fans weren't casual spectators. They were passionate, organized, loud. They flooded comment sections. They dominated Twitter threads. They made TikToks exposing gatekeeping culture. They revived old clips where Aja shaded CC. And they played training camp videos in slow motion to analyze dirty looks. BRO. These fans became investigators. And the real kicker? They were winning the narrative. Because the more people talked, the clearer the pattern looked. Caitlin Clark brought millions of dollars. Caitlin Clark doubled ratings. Caitlin Clark filled arenas. Caitlin Clark made brands pay attention. Caitlin Clark made women's basketball global. And suddenly the old guard felt small. But the drama didn't stop with fans. Some players vouched for Aja. "We stand with our sister. She's a leader. This decision was wrong." But others? They quietly liked tweets supporting Caitlin. They watched Caitlin highlight clips. They followed Caitlin on Instagram. They subtly hinted that they were tired of the favoritism. One rookie even posted, "Some of us been quiet for too long." That post was deleted within minutes. But screenshots never die. ESPN commentators argued live on air. FS1 analysts almost shouted over each other. Podcasts spent hours debating whether the WNBA was sabotaging itself. One radio host said, "If Caitlin walks away from Team USA, the whole program collapses." That clip went viral instantly. And then came the sponsors. Nike, Gatorade, State Farm, AT&T, Google. They all started making private inquiries about the situation. On translation, they wanted to know who was at fault before they put their money on the line. Because the WNBA's multi-million-dollar future wasn't tied to Aja Wilson's image. It wasn't tied to the veterans. It wasn't tied to the old guard. It was tied to one athlete, Caitlin Clark. If she leaves, sponsors leave. If she's mistreated, brands walk. If she's kept out of Team USA, fans boycott. The league knew this. The Olympic Committee knew this. The WNBA players knew this. And that's exactly why Aja's removal was so explosive. It told the world the system was corrupt, and Caitlin Clark was the one who exposed it. But the most shocking reaction came from outside basketball. Celebrities jumped in. Lil Wayne tweeted, "Protect Caitlin at all costs." Ice Cube posted, "Power levels changing." Chance the Rapper said, "Women's sports is going through its biggest shift ever." Even Billie Eilish liked a post supporting Caitlin. BRO. Celebs were picking sides. Then, a video emerged that changed everything again. Someone leaked a clip of Caitlin Clark walking into practice with the entire facility staring at her. Not welcoming, not smiling, not supportive. Staring. Cold. Uncomfortable. Threatened. And yet Caitlin walked in calm, shoulders straight, eyes forward. Like she already knew she had the power. And this clip went insanely viral. This is what jealousy looks like. She's walking in like Jordan in '96. The league scared of her energy. Even people who didn't follow the WNBA suddenly cared. And meanwhile, the WNBA office was drowning in backlash. Emails, petitions, hashtag campaigns, fans demanding transparency, sponsors threatening reevaluation, media demanding statements. The league couldn't hide anymore. But then came the twist that shook everything. A insider, anonymously, messaged a reporter. "You think the recording was bad? Wait until you hear what the coach said." The coach. The coach? The internet went feral. What did the coach do? Did the coach allow the gatekeeping? Did the coach play favorites? Did the coach try to sabotage Caitlin too? Hours later, another leak. This wasn't a player-driven issue. This was a systemic issue. In other words, Team USA didn't just remove Aja because of her actions. They removed her because the investigation led to something bigger, and someone at the top is involved. And Caitlin Clark? She knows everything. The fans know she knows. The league knows she knows. Team USA knows she knows. And that's why the world is now waiting for the next leak like it's a nuclear bomb. Because when Caitlin Clark exposes the coach, this won't be a scandal. It will be a revolution. When the rumors shifted from Aja to the coach, the energy around the entire situation transformed instantly. This was no longer a player beef. This was no longer locker room tension. This was no longer jealousy or competition. This was systemic. This was leadership-level corruption. And for the first time since the leak, the WNBA executives weren't worried about fans or Twitter trends. They were worried about Caitlin Clark, because she wasn't talking. She wasn't posting. She wasn't reacting. She was silent. And silence from Caitlin Clark, the woman who just got Aja Wilson removed without saying a single public word, was the scariest thing the league had ever seen. Behind the scenes, people began whispering, "She has the recording. She has the messages. She knows what the coaches said. She can end Team USA with one leak." But the real shock came when someone leaked a screenshot, a blurry image of a private internal report. On one line was highlighted, "Coaching staff expressed concerns that Caitlin Clark's inclusion may shift team dynamics and media focus away from long-standing program leaders." BRO. What? Translation. The coaches didn't just allow the gatekeeping, they participated in it. They openly discussed limiting Caitlin's role. They openly expressed fear of her impact. They admitted they were worried she'd overshadow the veterans. And they strategized ways to gradually integrate her so she wouldn't dominate the spotlight. This was the truth Caitlin exposed. Not just Aja's manipulation, but the coach's involvement. And once that line leaked, everything spiraled out of control. Because now the internet had proof. Caitlin wasn't imagining the hostility. She wasn't being dramatic. She wasn't being sensitive. She was being targeted, intentionally, strategically, by the people in charge. And Aya? She wasn't acting alone. She was part of a bigger plan designed to keep the old guard on top. The reaction online was apocalyptic. They sabotaged the future of women's basketball? The coaches need to be fired. This is illegal favoritism. Caitlin Clark exposed corruption, and they punished Aja for being the face of it. But the real bombshell was still coming. Because leaked documents never appear alone. A second image dropped at 1:43 a.m. This one sharper, clearer. Not it showed a message from a Team USA assistant coach. "Caitlin isn't the type of player we want as the program face. Too much attention, too much control. We need to protect the vets." And the reply, "Aja agrees." Boom. Absolute chaos. This wasn't speculation anymore. This wasn't rumor. This was evidence. The old guard and coaching staff openly conspired to protect veteran players from being overshadowed by Caitlin Clark. And now the world knew. Team USA wasn't a merit-based roster. It was a political hierarchy, and Caitlin Clark had just blown it apart. Executives lost their minds. A confidential internal message leaked. "If this reaches sponsors, we may lose up to 40% of projected Olympic revenue." 40%. Because Caitlin Clark wasn't just a player. She was the financial engine of the entire program. Networks wanted her. Countries wanted her. Olympic advertisers wanted her. Remove Caitlin, and the money disappears. Protect Caitlin, and the old guard rebels. No matter what Team USA chose, they were bleeding from one side. Then came the meeting, the one nobody knew about. Caitlin Clark was quietly called into a private conference room with 3 top officials, 2 from Team USA, 1 from the WNBA. The conversation lasted 52 minutes. Not recorded, not documented, not acknowledged publicly. But one insider who overheard pieces of it said, they weren't talking to Caitlin like a rookie. Much they were talking to her like she was the commissioner of the league. The officials asked, "What would make you comfortable moving forward? What can we do to fix the culture? What do you want changed?" Not one question asking what she did wrong. Not one question asking her to apologize. Not one question defending Aja. Caitlin had all the leverage. She had the recording. She had the leaked messages. she had the league by the throat. And then came the one line, the one quote, the one sentence that shook the walls. If the culture doesn't change, more recordings will. Bro. Caitlyn didn't threaten anyone. She didn't scream. She didn't expose names. But she made one thing clear. She had more evidence. Meaning, there is a second recording, a second conversation, a second scandal, a second bomb waiting to explode. The league panicked. Within 24 hours, Aja was removed. As the coach was placed under review, 2 staff members were reassigned. Team USA operations were temporarily frozen. Media blackouts were ordered. PR teams drafted 9 different statements. But the craziest part? The burner account, the same one that leaked everything, returned one final time with a message. The second recording is worse, a lot worse. And if Team USA mishandles this again, Caitlin Clark won't be the only one exposing them. What does that mean? Who else has receipts? Which player is next? What did the coaches really say? The entire sports world is waiting. Because the next leak? It won't just remove a player. It won't just embarrass a coach. It won't just fracture the locker room. It could destroy Team USA and rewire the entire WNBA. And the final cliffhanger? The burner account posted one more sentence before going silent. The next leak names the real mastermind. And it's not Aja. Bro. What? Who else was involved? Who was above Aja? Which powerful figure was behind the plan to suppress Caitlyn? Part 2 is about to expose the villain nobody expected. And when that drops, Team USA won't survive it. If you're still watching after everything that just unfolded, after the leaks, after the recordings, after the corruption, after Aja's removal, after the coach being exposed, after Caitlin Clark's quiet but powerful takeover, then congratulations. You're now officially witnessing the biggest shakeup in women's basketball history. But the craziest part? This story is nowhere near finished. Not even close. Because the second recording, the one every insider is terrified of, the one that supposedly names the real mastermind behind the plot to hold Caitlin Clark back, still hasn't dropped. And when that bomb hits, it might take down players, coaches, executives, and possibly Team USA's entire reputation. So, before the next leak detonates, I need to hear from you. Do you think Aja deserved to be kicked off the team? Yes or no? Is Caitlin Clark the victim of jealousy, or the catalyst for a necessary revolution? Should the full recordings be released to the public no matter the consequences? And who do you think the real mastermind behind this scandal is? Name them. The comments are open. Don't hold back. Don't play safe. Right now, your voice shapes the narrative. Every comment pushes this deeper into public conversation. Every like forces the algorithm to spread the truth. Every share brings new eyes to a story the WNBA is desperate to bury. And trust me, the next chapter is going to be even darker. Because in part 2, we're breaking down the identity of the mastermind behind the anti-Caitlyn campaign, the coach's secret messages that officials are scrambling to hide, the new wave of players preparing to come forward, the sponsors who are issuing ultimatums behind closed doors, the message Caitlin Clark sent privately that has executives terrified, and the second recording that insiders say will end careers instantly. So like this video if you think Caitlin Clark deserves a fair shot. Subscribe if you want. Part 2. The second the next leak drops. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the exact moment the next scandal hits. Because I promise you, it's coming. And when it does, the entire WNBA will never look the same. Part 2 is loading. And the truth is about to get much uglier.